the olden days, Miimei Kedem. Agav, we're going to finish the first parak of Tomer Devorah. I just want to mention we're going to finish today, Sunday, finish the first parak of Tomer Devorah, and that's the parak that most people learn. The parak that most people learn is, actually you don't unplug it there, sir. Okay.
No, it's unplugged.
You unplugged it.
I plugged it before, now I plugged it.
It's not plugged in.
What do you want to do?
No, I plugged myself in, so I realized that it needed, so I just unplugged it to plug you back in. You were,
Try it again.
Just don't unplug this.
No,
no, it's fine. Leave it.
Lots on.
I'm saying I unplugged it 10 minutes ago.
No, it wasn't plugged in before.
I'm saying 10 minutes ago I unplugged it, not
This thing
knowing.
was plugged in before.
Oh, it has a minute of battery.
Yeah.
Saying 10 minutes I unplugged it, not knowing. that
Okay,
it was
is it plugged in?
Yeah, I
Thank
just
you.
plugged it in, that's right. What I do is Latova, not the.
Thank you. Thank you. Come all the time.
10 minutes ago I did my favor, and I didn't chew.
What I started saying is that we're finishing the 13 Midot. There's a minhag, there's a yeshivish minhag to learn the first parak of Tomer Devorah. During Elul, we're very machmer. We learned it for the last since Elul because we learned it properly, I think, or more properly, and we're finishing the 13th Midot. The rest of Tomer Devorah, there's actually 9 parakim in Tomer, 10 parakim in Tomer Devorah. It's also written by Tomer Devorah, and this is Parak Aleph, Parak Beis Gimel. So it's usually skipped, and the reason it's usually skipped is either because we run out of Elul or because it's more Kabbalistic, maybe. So I'm just leaving it to you. We could either keep going and go through the Sefer. I don't think we have to be afraid of the Spheros. We could handle the Spheros. Lefi Badrega Seder, or we can go into a different thing. But so if let me just get a quick. Keep going.
Sure.
An opportunity. There's very. You look at all the Svarim on Tomer Devorah. It's all in the first paragraph, and there's nothing there. After the second paragraph, there's nothing there. So I think it's good. But I think what we should do is finish the 13 Midos, and then I think just not to lose it, we should go make a sikkum. Just one time of all the 13 Midos and see what it is that we learned here. But B'ezras Hashem, I think we should go further. So the Midah Shleisha Asar is the Midah of Miimei Kedem, and let's just read the words. Harei Midah Sheyesh Laha Kadosh Baruch Hu Im Yisrael. I point out that every introduction, every first sentence of each Midah is different than the other one. One says Zu Midah Tova Yisrael, Zu Midah Tova LaKadosh Baruch Hu. Zu Davar Gadol, here it says, Harei Midah Sheyesh LaKadosh Baruch Hu Im Yisrael. This is a certain relationship that exists between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Klal Yisrael. Interesting relationship. What is that? Kishetamos Schus, there's 2 girses. What does it say in yours? Schusavos? Kishetamos Schusavos. In mine it says Kishetamos Schus. When there's no more Schus, or when there's no more Schusavos, V'chayotze Ma Yaseh Harei Mitzad Atzum Einam Hagunim. Let's say, until now we've been learning, okay, well, even if there's nothing else, maybe they did something right. So look at that. We learned about allowing people to do tshuva. We learned about how to forgive people after they've done tshuva. But it's all talking about when they've bettered their ways. Otherwise, you just stop being abused. If a person is hurting you and they don't change and they don't have any midah tova there, so then if you're forgiving them, you're just a victim of abuse. Like it's one thing, and it's difficult enough to, on a very practical level, it's difficult enough that if somebody hurts you, but they apologize, they're bettering themselves, to have the patience, the arach hapayim, the rav chesed, all of the things that we learned about, the Mikel Kamocha, that even though he's a melech oluv, nevertheless he keeps on sustaining us. That's fair enough. But if a person doesn't change and doesn't have any schus, it has no redeeming factor. We're talking about 0. Once you pick up a redeeming factor, we're going back to 12 or to 11 or to 10. But when we're talking about Midah Yud Gimel, whatever you're going to think of, it's not there. So he says, Kishetama schus, and in mine it says schus, which I believe comes from an earlier version of the time. When there's no schus, there is no reason in the world I should like you. And there's no reason in the world you should forgive me. Nothing. And there's no change taking place. So what's to be godly here? So the answer is, HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves us anyway.
Kishatama sounds like there was some reason, and
Everybody has chusavos.
and it ran out.
Ran out, like there's a limit to that also. Let's say a person completely disassociates himself with the avos. They're not my grandparents, maybe they're yours, they're not mine. I have nothing to do with them. Explain that chusavos, the Tanai in chusavos is, even if you do nothing else, you identify as a Jew, Jewish identity. Chusavos, bris avos, as opposed to bris Sinai, as a quote of salvation. Bris avos, as opposed to bris Sinai. Thomas chusavos, Thomas chus, I have nothing. So what happens to me now? I have nothing. I've a person's Ovid Avodah Zarah, intermarries, he decides he's an atheist, and has nothing to do with God or his people. Thomas chus, that's what we're talking about. I mean, as severe as you want, and he killed a few people along the way. Meaning, no benam l'makom, no benam l'chaver, no kesher. Is he my brother? So how does HaKadosh Baruch Hu look at this? So it's very challenging, because you think, well, there must be something. Let's say there's nothing. So
Genetics.
it's just genetic, right?
That's it.
See, last week I told a story. I just want to review this story because it's a good story. But last week I told a story about a man who is so far from Yiddishkeit. Right here, just the guy I met here at the printer. So far from Yiddishkeit, so far from anything Jewish, anything Torah, anything. And he was telling me this story. He was there printing, the left-wing apocalypse atheism. He was there at the printer printing out posters for Barrett. Right? That's what we're talking about. And he comes to talk to me in Yiddish. So this unto itself is a bagling issue. Right? Shows you there's something there, And he's telling me a story about he was in America, and he went to visit America, and he went this, and he went out of his way to explain to me how he ate this treif restaurant, that treif restaurant. So he was going out of his way to. But he told me one of the things he did is he went to visit the Satmar Rebbe. Remember I told you the story? It's important to review. I think it's an important story. He went to visit the Satmar Rebbe, and he was telling the Satmar Rebbe exactly the way he left the derech and how he supports the state of Israel, and not even the state of Israel. The Frum people support the total secular state of Israel. He said his lashon, whatever I did, I couldn't get the Satmar Rebbe to dislike me. I couldn't get him to be not nice. Satmar Rebbe was like, right? Everyone's thinking about him like some kind of he's Gvura. He's Gvura. I couldn't get him to be not nice to me. Couldn't do it. So
He was held much that way.
Satmar Rebbe. So he said to him, "Why are you even talking to me after everything I'm telling you?" So the Satmar Rebbe told him that that your family comes from the Carpathian Mountains. I know your father. So, I know your father, like you're chavivli because I know your father. That's chusavos. Now, what if he turns around and says, "But I hate my father. I don't want to have anything to do with my father." It's also shaykh. So that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about it like the ultimate madrega. Now, the truth of the matter is, I want to say this. If we could reach this madrega, whatever that madrega is, I'm trying to figure out in the next 15 minutes. But if you could reach this madrega, l'chayr, you don't need all the other 12 before, because once a person needs nothing, then you don't need something.
Kabalah.
Right. So I think that this is too strenuous to do all the time. This is what we're gonna learn here is only B'leis Greira, last resort. That's why it's Midah Yud Gimel. So Midah Yud Gimel is like this. Let's try to see the words. Ma Yasa. Hashem says, "Ma yasa." Unto themselves, they're intrinsically bad. Intrinsically bad. So the pasuk says, "Zacharti lo chesed nurayich avas klulei sayich." Mamish zoicher HaKadosh Baruch Hu yimei kadmonim. What's the name of the midah? Miimei Kedem. Mamish zoicher HaKadosh Baruch Hu yimei kadmonim. Ava shahaya mikoidem u'merachem al Yisrael u'bezeh yaskir lehem kol hamitzvah she'asu miyom shenoldai v'chol ha'toivos v'chol midos toivos sha'kadosh baruch hu manik behem olamai. This is hard words. I'll tell you why. U'bikulam oises segula l'rachem bishvilam. So if you read this quick, it sounds like okay, HaKadosh Baruch Hu zacharti lach chesed nurayich. It would be like avas klulay sayich. Like a couple's having terrible shalom bayis problems, and they're ready to get divorced. And they said, I see nothing nice about my wife. I just don't like her. And she says the feeling is mutual. So what do you have? Nothing to work with there. Nothing to work with. Zero. He did this. He did that. He violated this. So maybe there's an answer to say, look, just think back for a moment when you were standing under the chuppah, and you had the whole world in front of you, and you were together going to go through life and conquer life, and just remember that moment for a moment. There is a toilet to this or not? That's gone. That moment is gone. So Kadosh Baruch Hu says, no, zacharti lach. I can remember chesed nurayich, avas kula sayich. I can remember lechtech acharai b'midbar, be'eretz lo zerug. You're so far from that now. You're so removed from that, right, that you've completely divorced yourself from that experience in history. But somehow or another, you are connected to the history of it, and therefore, miimei kedem, I'm going to remember yomim hakadmonim. Ava shahaya mikodem u'merachem al Yisrael, and that way is merachem al Yisrael. Ubezeh yasker lehem kol hamitzvah she'asu miyom shenoldei v'chol hamidos hatoivos v'chol hatoivos rather. Now he says like this. Let's read this carefully, and that's why I said it was hard words. There's a comma there. It's usually read, and I looked even I looked this morning to see how they read this in the. There's an English version, and they read it the wrong way, I believe. So how does HaKadosh Baruch Hu get in here? HaKadosh Baruch Hu manug by lamai. That's not the right way to read it, right? Otherwise, those are extra words. Blah blah blah. So the answer is like this: HaKadosh Baruch Hu remembers Chol HaMidos Toivos. V'chol Midos Toivos, new thing. Semicolon. V'chol Midos Toivos HaKadosh Baruch Hu manhig bahem olamai. That this is what this means. It's really very deep. That intrinsic to the person is a set of midos tovos which are not going to go away. Because chol midos tovos hu manig b'hem olamai. Because a person, whether you like it or not, is created b'tzelem elokim. And if you're created b'tzelem elokim, you're created with the same midos that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world with. That's what this means. The whole midos. What is HaKadosh Baruch Hu remembering? He's remembering his own midos tovos that he had and instilled in the person when he created him. B'chol midos tovos HaKadosh Baruch Hu manig b'hem olamai, which are the midos that we're learning, which is chesed gvur tiferes natzachoy yesod malchus, all the midos tovos of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and this person is a sheer kaima of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He's a dugma. He's a dugma of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You would never know it, but there's something intrinsic. So let me tell you this. Umikulam oisa skula l'rachem b'shvilam. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu is looking at, he's not just saying, well, let's look back at the day of the chuppah. How do you feel about that? There's something deeper here. You're looking back at the day of the chuppah, there was obviously something here. Let's take it a step further. Obviously something that brought you two together. There was obviously something that you found attractive about each other, right? Probably there were some good things there. So, let's look at that. This is a good technique. Let's look at that, because even though that's completely gone, that's the Yimei Kedem. We have to look at. So tabas chasavos, he's tithing tabas chasavos. She's tithing tabakolas chas. There's nothing here any longer. That was, things. It's not the same person, right? But there was something there, and what's in the case of a Jew with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, there's kol hamidos tovos that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was borei lavai. So this morning when I looked at the English translation, I found do you know there's such a thing? I just realized I had that in my library. It's called the palm tree of Deborah, naturally. So in the Pirush, it says something very interesting in the English commentary. but I'm not sure it's true. I'm not sure it's true of Pshat. But he says in the Pirush, he says that the Pshat here is that everybody was a child. Like sometimes, let me see if I can explain this properly. That sometimes you see a person acting in a very ugly way, and then you look at their history, and you realize that this is not that this was there. This is there because of the traumas they went through. This was there because of the difficulties they went through in their life, and you look at the person with a different level of rachamim. So, like what you're seeing over there, this is an interesting point, but I think it's hapech the pshat. What you're seeing over there is, like sort of that child within that never grew up, and you'll have rachamim. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu is looking at us with a certain zacharti lach chesed nurayich avos kolosayich. I'm not sure how he sees that in the pshat, but the reason why he needs to see that in the pshat is because the pshat is very difficult. What do you see? What does Hashem see when He looks at us when we were just born? You with me on this? Like this is it's a kasha. What can He see if there's nothing to see? So the answer is, well, one time, zacharti lach chesed nurayich avos kolosayich. He goes on to say, and I'm going to try to explain it. Hareza midah koilelas kol hamidos kulam kedeper shebeidra. This midah really is kolal all the midos before, because if you do this midah, as I said earlier, you don't really need all the other midos, because if a person doesn't need nothing, then you don't need something. So it's really kolal everything, but as I say, I think it's exhausting, so we don't see it. So I'd like to propose the following shot. The Sfarim say, you see it very clearly in the Sefer HaTanya, at the end of Perek Aleph. So the Balatanya on Mor Hazaken talks about the fact, he talks about the essence of a Jew, as opposed to the behavior of a Jew. If we learned anything through the 13 Midos, is to make a distinction between what a person does and what a person is. A person doesn't always do what they are. And the Gemara says, which is hard to swallow, the Gemara says, tava have a bisha. That's the lashon of the Gemara. A good person doesn't become a bad person. But we see good people become bad people. We see it. So where's the Gemara read what it says, tavo lo'hava bisha? So the answer is we see people doing bad things, but does that mean that they are really bad? B'makor. That's the question. So the Balatanya says, Yesh midos tovah shebeteva kol Yisrael betol doisam. There are certain things that are intrinsic to Klal Yisrael. My rachmanos, Mils chasadim. Ki b'Yisrael nefesh zu de klipa himi klipas noiga. Because if you'll see, so to make it simple, there's the good and the bad. There's the Eitz Hadas Toiv V'Ra. So there's the Priya, there's the Klipa. The Klipa is where negativity is coming from. Taking from the Klipa. So if a person's doing everything bad, that's all from the Klipa. By Klal Yisrael, the way it works, you don't have to memorize this, but I'll just tell you, the way it works is that in Kabalah there are sholosh klipos tmeos, and then there's a klipas noiga. Sholosh klipos tmeos means the outer klipa. Inside of that there's another klipa, like think about an orange, right? So there's the orange part, and then there's under the orange is the white part. Think about a peanut. Think about anything with a klipa. Peanut's probably better than an orange because you can still eat orange peels, but you can't eat a peanut shell. So a shell. So if you take a shell, that's a klipa. So you have a klipa. But on the peanut itself, the part that you eat, there's also a little klipala. But that klipala is it part of the peanut? Is it part of the klipa? Like you can't eat a peanut shell. If you put it in a cake, you can't eat it. It's not gonna nothing. But what you could build a house with peanut shell. By the way, like you can, it's wood. But you can't eat it. But that little wrapping there, the little gift wrap on the peanut itself, which some people take off, some people don't. The little red thing. Yeah? So that's called. Let's in a bushel. Let's say a bushel. That's klipas noiga. Klipas noiga means it's getting some of its koach from the pre and some of its koach from the klipa. Klipas noga. See, we say short answers. So that's the shalosh klipas hatmeis. V'sachniya, that's the klipas noiga. So it says in the Gra. Sa'aker, Usashaber, Usabager, get rid of them. V'sachniya, what are we being machniya if we got rid of them? We're already ba'aker, Sa'aker, Shaber, Sashaber, Smager, we nuked them. So if we got rid of them, what's v'sachniya b'meir v'yomeinu? The sachniya is talking about a different klipa, which is there's 3 klipas tmeyos, and then there's the klipas noiga. You can understand that on a peanut, right? So let's try to understand about a Jew. So that klipas noga means light. It doesn't have a light, but the light from the peanut, from the neshama in our case, is shining through. That's what it means. Noga doesn't mean light; it means shining through. There's a light able to shine through and affect it. On the other hand, it's still a protective device. Klipas are protective devices. Interestingly, you see, Jewish neighborhoods are always surrounded at the worst. Neighborhoods, yeah. Is the holier the neighborhood, the worse the neighbors. Think about it. Eretz Yisrael, Harlem, wherever you want to go. It's the same thing. It's the same thing, right? It's always like, ooh. Like if you're going to go, there's no good surrounded by good because you need a protective device. That's
Crown
the
Heights.
Huh?
Crown Heights.
Right? A chevra, your shlite. I mean, what's the? So you need the pre. So here's the diagram, the pre, klipas noiga, shalosh klipas hatmeos. So this is the Balatanya says that even if a Klal Yisrael, somebody in Klal Yisrael does ra, understand that it's coming from the klipa for sure, because there's no ra in the pre, but it's not coming from the shalosh klipas hatmeos, it's coming from the klipas noiga. Which is probably, by the way, I'm not a Chabadnik, but it's probably the fundamental principle which has driven the Chabad movement through 7 generations. It's a klipas noga. It's not what you think it is. So he says, Nefesh Yisrael zu de klipa, he be klipa noga. Sheyesh bagam came toiv. It has a shtickle toiv in it. Vehi misod eitz hadas toiv v'ra. This is the sod. Eitz hadas toiv v'ra. By the way, I'm reading you the Tanya, but this is almost word for word of the Zohar. Almost word for word of the Zohar by the Eitz Hadas. The Soid Eitz Hadas Toiv V'ra is exactly this Nakuda of Klipas Noiga. Klipas Noiga. Something important to know about. Sa'akir, headless kavana. Sa'akir, Sha'aber, Smager, V'sachnia. This one we want to get on our side. Ezehu Gibar, HaKoivesh is Yitzra. So you get koivesh yitzur, don't destroy it. It's an enemy tank you could use for your own good because it has. So hakoivesh is yitzur, you koivesh it onto your side. Klipas noga. You could turn it around. And here he says, Masha Ekein, nefashos ubais ha'olam, heid mishar klipos hatmeos. Wow. She'ein bahem toiv klal. This is not a statement about humanity, it's a statement about Jews. Vashikasu beitz chayim, before the eitz chayim, Rizal, Shar Baptez, Par Gimel, this is his lashon, V'chol tivu da'avdin u'ubais, legar bayu avdin. That on the contrary, that even the good that you see of this hurts the Western ear. I'm warning you, this is painful. But even the good you see of the ubais ha'olam, legar bayu avdin, they're doing it for their own good. Staka chesed l'ubim chatos. It says in Hilchos Tzedakah. Chesed l'ubim chatos. That even the tzedakah of a guy. I do think, by the way, there are exceptions to this, even on a Kabbalistic level, but that's the rule. Even the toiv that they're doing is the Gemara. The Gemara says that the Romans and the Greeks, they all came to Shemayim, And they said, what do you mean? We built up the whole Yerushalayim, we built the Kardo, and we built Yesharim, and we made a government. It's all klipa. It's all klipa. So, it's all klipa, it's all klipa. L'garmayu often, they're doing it for themselves. That's what the words of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, no? Kol ma she'asisem l'tzarech atzmechem asisem. You just did it for yourself, you do it for me. It's not coming from an altruistic point of view. Kedisa b'Gemara, Kedisa b'Gemara, it says the Gemara. V'chesed lu b'mchatos, I should read ahead before I do. Chesed lu b'mchatos, shekol tzedakah v'chesed, shubas ha'ila b'oisem eina ela lihis yaher. It's only for gaiva. By the way, according to the Balatanya, so the well-known story of the Balatanya is when he was arrested, and we all know he was freed on Yud Tes Kislev, but he was also arrested. So when he was arrested, so these were not just like a bunch of drunken Cossacks that arrested him. There was a lot going on there. And one of the things they brought to him, they asked him, I think, 6 questions about his philosophy and what he's holding and what he's doing in the Tsarist government, etc. Like, what's his Shlit'a about this? And he asked him 6 questions. So the 5 he answered, and the 6th he wouldn't answer. He smiled. So the 6th question was, right, what Manishtana? This is the question. That how could you write in the Tanya? Was they asked him, how could you write in the Tanya that goyim are bad even when they do good?
They learn.
Can you write?
Is it translated?
Tanya. The internet.
Someone told them.
Somebody told him. Whatever. I don't know. I mean, anything is Pirush. I mean, how did the censor all the Sfarim of Jewish history? They had people that did this. This was their job, was to learn. Imagine there are people in the Vatican that knows how to learn better than a lot of Rosh Yeshivas today. Because, they were able to get through things and find docu. So there was a censor. We were always but this was not censored. It's interesting. He didn't censor. And so the way the story reads, if you read a book like Beis Harav, which is the biography of the Balatanya, it says when it came to the 6th question, Chiyech, he just smiled. And the Chabadniks write in the Sefer, we don't get clear what this chiyuch was. Every time he smiled, they thought he was laughing. They thought he was laughing at them, so they beat him for smiling. But the truth is, I understand the smile, because here they were interrogating him, they were torturing him, they were beating him. And do you have any question as to why you're working on a klipa level?
Yeah.
This is funny.
There's proof.
It's funny. It was a funny thing. Like, what's your shaila? The Kloisenberger Rebbe, Zecher Tzadik V'Kadosh Livrav. The Kloisenberger Rebbe was there was a story about him that the Hasidim told over. They saw that the Nazis, when they were grabbing the leaders of the communities and trying to show how it's not, they're trying to diminish all covet possible, and they were beating him. They were beating him and beating him. The Kloisenberger Rebbe, Hashem Yinkoim Dama, was a frail person to begin with, and we know who he was. They were beating him and beating him. I mean, he lived through this. They were beating him, and until he fell to the ground, and they made all the Hasidim stand around and watch as they were doing this. And the Nazi said to him, "Do you still think you're from the chosen people?" So he looked at the Nazi and he said, "As long as I'm not the one holding the stick, I'm the one being beaten, so I'm the chosen people and you're not." Like that was the painful answer, literally. But the chosenness doesn't mean that you're on top necessarily. Chosenness means that you're reacting like a Jew. That's what chosenness means. You're reacting like a Jew. So, anyways, Nachzer in your name. That's the story of the Balatanya. But I just want to say this Nakuda here. That what is he saying? He's saying that even that's the end of Parak Aleph of Tanya. Even even when it's completely bad, even when the behavior is completely bad, it's important to understand that that's from klipas. It's all klipa, but it's klipas noiga, and it's not from shalosh klipas hatmeis. What does that mean in a practical sense? What does it mean in reality? What it means is that as long as it's klipas noiga, there's a possibility of visachnia. There's a possibility of tshuva. If the whole thing is bad, and even the good is bad, so then it's possible. It's impossible to come back, and there's nothing to have rachamim on. It's amalek. But if the pshat is that it's coming from the klipas noiga could always go either way. Hence, you could have a situation of tshuva. It's a chiddush of tshuva.
Was there ever such a person who that paskin that the noga is just is not stachnia?
That there's no v'sachnia acher, no. Meir said it acher's kavur, that he's about tshuva.
Yoshkagam.
Yashka. Tell you something interesting about Yashka. I saw it in the David Valley, Chavrusa de Ramchal. So he says that this Indian, like he says something similar to the Arizal. He wasn't the Arizal, but he says something similar to the Arizal. But he said that based on the Rambam says that the purpose for Christianity, the reason God created Christianity and let this happen, it was a way of teaching the Goyim about the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach, and that there is a God in this world. So it was a monotheistic campaign for Goyim. It's a good thing for Goyim. And it's ad kedei kach that if you'll actually read the New Testament, if you read the New Testament, there was big discussion amongst the apostles. I actually once read it here on Shabbos. This is the only shul in the world. there was actually discussion as to whether they should do things like Milah. It's not one of the Sheva Mitzvahs that they know. What do we have to teach people to do Milah? So it's a hard thing, and so the machlokes amongst the apostles was: are we the new Jews, or are we just doing the Sheva Mitzvahs and Noach? But anyways, the Rambam says that when you have this halacha, the Rabbeinu Tam says in the beginning of the Avodah Zarah that there's such a thing as shituf, and shituf is mutter l'goy and asur l'Yisrael. So, like, how does that work? So the Rambam explains it's not only mutter l'goy, it's a good thing for a guy. So comes. I'll tell you how. I was almost offended by this, but I spoke a few weeks ago. I was in Los Angeles. I spoke. So I was speaking about the idea that I think the forgotten idea of us. That if you look through all of the Nevi'im, the major purpose of Judaism, the major reason that we received the bracha from Yitzchak and went to Yaakov, and we have the major reason that we have the longevity that we have. To get through pogroms and holocausts and inquisitions and all. The reason why we're getting through this is because of the bracha of Yitzchak, the bracha of Avram to Yitzchak, Yitzchak to Yaakov. Esav doesn't have the longevity that we have. We have a longevity that goes all the way to the times of Mashiach. Because what's the reason we have it? So the Nevi'im speak this out clearly throughout the whole Tanakh. It's because we're supposed to be at Or La'amin. So we're supposed to be at Or La'amin. Now, Or La'amin means, it could mean a lot of things. It could mean we should be out there, running out there, teaching Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach. That's one thing it could mean. It could mean that we should be a bench, in the business place, be a good example, a role model for what it means, what the world is supposed to be like. It could mean that you smile at a cashier. To be an Or La'amin, it could mean it could even mean, like, which is the more maybe yeshiva shipshat, is that you don't even have to do anything. Just sit and learn and do mitzvahs, and you're creating an R. Loch Batli. This pshat, that pshat, they're all true. But I spoke at in actually Lakewood Kollel in Los Angeles. So the Rosh Kollel came up to me afterwards. He said, "You're your talk shook me up, which I thought was a compliment. So I said, thank you. I thought it was a compliment. So I said, well, thank you. He says, I disagree with you. So I said, what do you, it's just a typical, so he said that, doesn't think that we have any longer a matar to be Orlam, and doesn't think so. He thinks that's gone. So he said he heard B'Shem Rabbi and Kabalah that Orlam, since the time of the Christians, went to them. Their job is to be the Orlam. I can't imagine Rabbi. I asked, I can't imagine. I just can't imagine. Well, this wasn't the Rosh Hashanah, like a Rosh Hashanah. So he said he thinks that, in other words, they're out there doing the kiruv and
It's the left coast.
It's
the left coast.
right. But it's I mean, l'dati, it's for sure not true. I mean, whatever bechina of Orlam you want to take, the whole reason that we're in Golus is to be Malin and Tzotzis and to be in Orlamim. So it's, and all the Amim, we have to be in Or for the Christians and for the Goyim, for the Arabs, for everybody. We have to be in Orlam. We have to be an example. We're held to the reason why. I mean, everyone's always complaining that why the Jews always on the front page of the New York Times, tiny little country, tiny little people, what they want, it's all anti-Semitism. I don't think it's anti-Semitism. I mean, maybe it is anti-Semitism, but I don't think that's the pshat. The pshat is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created us to be an Or La'amim. In order to be Or La'amim, you have to be center stage. So he gives us, we got like a regular spot there on the New York Times, like a regular spot that we get, whether we pay for it or not. And no matter what we do, we're there, So what are you talking about? You're talking about, a few million people. There's 7 billion people in this world. Like, get off of it. Get on to Indonesia or something. Like, what's but Nigeria, this is our job. We have to be an Orlam, so we get a spot in the newspaper to be Orlam. Unfortunately, like if we make a Chil Hashem, it's also a Choshech La'amim. So there's a special koach that we have. To me, it's a dover bor. But what I do want to say is this: that I saw in Reb David Valley, B'Shem the Ramchal, that if Goyim take on the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach, and is referring to Neutstrom, so then there's a Klipas Noiga there also. So that's like a Gavaldik Chiddush, that even like I don't know, I guess the Baal Tanya didn't hold this way, or at least he didn't hold this way because these guys that were beating him in jail were not keeping the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach. But if Taka, the Goyim are keeping Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach, so then it's a sort of a gerus almost, not to Judaism, but to maybe like a Ger Toshav type of an idea, where he's makabel on it, and he does it because HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to do it. Like the Rambam says, that's not just he does it because he's moral, ethical, does it because HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that he's moved in, says the Reb David Valley, he's moved from the Sholosh Klipas Atzmeyus to the Klipas Noiga. I'll tell you, nafkamina la'alacha, and this is so important these days, is if that's true. If I need to be a gadol to paskin this, I'm nothing. But if it's true, I just want to posit, then taking money from the Christian groups becomes mutter if they're keeping Sheva Mitzvahs and they know and they believe in Hashem, because then it's a v'sachnia as opposed to a shalosh klipas hatmeis.
Why is it called a klipa?
Why is it a klipa? Because it's a protective device. Why are they called a klipa is an interesting question, but you see now that there is some aspect of klipa to it, like a protection to it. But
just practically speaking, to be called the Ger Toshav, you need to be kabel a based on service.
MS, but practically speaking, to be called a Ger Toshav, I'm not saying, but there's giving a mushal. It's a bechina of a Ger Toshav, of somebody who's makabel the mitzvahs. They're putting themselves in a certain matzav. I was telling yesterday somebody's story that I sell books on the side, right? So somebody ordered a book. It was a book that I happen to have. I have in my collection. A book. It was an anti-missionary book in the old times. Like maybe it's 100 years old. This book, translated from German to English. Like that. So I had like 3 copies of it that I got somewhere. So somebody bought it online. It seemed like clearly a goy from who knows where, Idaho or something, and they bought this book. So sold the book. So they on Amazon. So they called and they said maybe it was $11 the book like that. So they called. They said never received the book. It happens. They never received the book. Wait another week. Wait another week. Called. Never received the book. So they were nice, but never received the book. So I said, okay, I'll send you another one. Like I have 3. I'll send you another book. So I said, okay. So they said, we'll send you a check for the postage. So I said, no, if you never got the book, I'll pay for the postage. So it was a big shot. But what's my $3 here? So no, enough. You're paying for the book. You don't have to pay for the postage. It's not your fault. It's the U.S. postal system. We're going back and forth. They're arguing I shouldn't pay for the postage. I'm arguing. I think we're talking about $3 or $4 or something. It was this big argument going on. So finally, they insisted that they're going to pay for the postage. These people, and it became clear that they were like really not Jewish. So I what do you think about it? So I said, look, I'll tell you what, I have a charity fund, so online, so just make a donation of the money to the charity fund, and we'll be done with it. Okay, that's a good solution. So it is a solution. So maybe 15 minutes later, every time somebody makes a donation to that charity fund, you should know, I get an email. So the email says that so-and-so person for the book just made a donation. You have money, right? This is PayPal. You have money. $4,632.
What?
For postage.
So where we're mailing to here. So
Send them another book.
I don't know. I thought it's a mistake. It's a PayPal mistake. They made a mistake. Maybe they meant $4.62. They wrote $4,632. So I called them. I had the number. It was the last number. I called them back and I said that this came as for yeah, that's what we decided. We got to your website and we read the thing about the poor people of Jerusalem that you're donating to, you're helping out, and poor people want to help poor people, and we need to tithe. It's time to give a tithe. So that's what it is. It was exactly $4,632 and something cents. And that was exactly their tithe. That's what it said on the refrigerator. That's what they have to give. So I now I don't know them. They don't know me. There's no personal gain from this. Is that for them? That is, and obviously I thank them.
They ate the $3. They ate the $3 to
No, they never paid me that $3. Because I said give tzedakah instead. That was what I said. So I'm just I was clearing about it. So just to be mashlim the story. There was this was here. I was here, and this was here, and it was b'diuk that day, or maybe the next day, that somebody for a medical reason, mamish needed $5,000, and no place to get it. And I was able to do this thing. I was I felt like I was shliach with Tova. Who would think if this person needs $5,000 that there's some guy in Idaho going to give it to him? And it was just an impossible thing to think. Anyways, I was schmoozing with this person. We became friends, but it's hard to say on him. I think, correct me if you think I'm wrong or disagree. It's hard to say chesed lo mimchatos. It felt to me my regesh was, and I remembered the David Valley who says B'Shem the Ramchal, based on the Rambam. That's what I remembered, that there's such a thing as even a goy moving over to the Klipas Noiga. So if that's the case, it's not like the Romans and the Greeks and the Babylonians, which are the Shalosh Klipas Atmeis. Heim Gufa Shalosh Klipas Atmeis. You're talking about something much more special. And on this kind of tzedakah, I believe it's a mitzvah to take. It's a mitzvah for them to give and a mitzvah to take. I think it helps. So how does that relate to? Let's get back to Tomer Devorah. We'll finish up. That the Tomer Devorah says that even if it was tamas chus, there's no schus avos, there's no schus mitzvahs, there's no redeeming factor in a person. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will love us anyway, because he'll realize that even the Baal Tanya says not just that there's a klipas noiga, but even that klipas noiga is yonik from tov, and there are certain things that will never go away. Rachmanas and gemilas chasadim will never go away. So what's the, but it did go away? The answer is that you'll find that even in the Ra, there is It's like, I read the biography, I'm telling you too many stories today, I'm sorry. But I read the biography of Bugsy Siegel. So he says, Dorian, read the biography? We should republish it. The biography of Bugsy Siegel. It could become like an art scroll like thing. Art scroll biography. So he
Mafioso.
yeah, the mafioso.
Al Capone's buddy.
That's right, Jewish guy. So it's like I don't know. These guys are like Rishoyim Geburim, you know, like I get killed people like for nothing, like just I don't like you. Yeah, yet somehow they became like American heroes, which is like a Pella, that people like really. There was a certain glamour about them, which was very My father used to think about these guys in Chicago, he used to talk like his eyes used to light up. He got excited about he was the most honest person in the world. My father would hurt her fly, but it was something. But it was in his biography. He said his testimony to the police when he said I really don't know what anybody wants from me. I only wanted to do good my whole life. Okay, this is not even like a Robin Hood story. Like I'm going to steal from this to give to that. It's he didn't like somebody, killed them, but he felt that whatever he felt. I don't know. I don't go into his crazy head. But the point is that he's a Jew. So even the klipa somehow was a klipa's noiga. So here you have a situation in terms where it says there's nothing left. But understand that even when there's nothing left, the klipas noiga is still noiga from the neshaman from Toy. And there's got to be something there, and it comes out all wrong, and it comes out all bad, and nobody's exempting or justifying or anything else. But it's a face only a mother can love, because what you have over here is HaKadosh Baruch Hu still loves Klal Yisrael. So what I want to finish on Sunday is Kach ha'adam yisakein hanhagasei im bnei adam. That we have to have this very, very same attitude. So we'll pick up on Sunday.
Kamsa bar kamsa.
You know what?
They let him live.
Sinas chinam is complete sinah. Yeah.
So that means there's no the noiga here. This person God should be killed. There's no
I saw in this Pirush in the Tomer Devorah that on the 12th Midot, the last words he said, and I emphasize this, if you recall, the last sentence of the 12th Midot, he says that if a person has Shlit'a, so don't push them away. Ella, what does he say here? Ein ritzoni mechasel b'nam u'misaknim k'fi koychai. Should try to be misakin them. So in the back here he has a Pirush.
Take a look.
Yeah, in the back he has a Pirush where he says that this is not the Shita of the world. The Shita of the world is to push them away. But Kidireh, the Shita of the Tomer Devorah, is Besakna. If somebody just has Chusavos, you have to reach out to be Mesakin. Here in the Shloisha, I don't think you have to reach out to be Mesakin. Maybe the Balatanya, but you have to just know that somewhere in there, there's a klipas noiga, which is a very different idea than the very superficial idea of a pintul yid and all that. This is all much, but they're understanding that klipa is one of them. A pintul yid is the almost oversimplification of things that I've ever heard, and the klipas noiga is the most sophisticated level of understanding what we're talking about over here. Maybe it looks the same, but it's a different. One's inside and one's outside.
Right.
It's a klipa.
Right.
Not to be mistaken for something which is not a klipa. Gets in your throat, it hurts. But it's not a klipa, it's not shalom klipas, it's megas.
I always thought Thomas Husovas was top down, not bottom up. But we're learning now, it's that we cut that off. I always thought it was the split over one, and then a certain point, it only goes so far. Not that we.
It goes as far as anybody who connects themselves to it, right?
So is that, I mean.
That's how it works. In other words, you can be Moshe.
Thomas Husovas means that at a certain point, okay, it's not there anymore.
No, it's
Your
not
light
true.
only goes so far.
You're not allowed to say that. It's awesome to say. It's actually awesome to say because it's a bris olam. What you can say is bris olam. It was a bris of Kadosh Baruch Hu, and that's what we were learning last night in the Tehillim this year. Like important grade that there was the whole philosophy, the whole Nietzsche philosophy, and that whole it's over. God forsake the world.
No, not that Hakadosh Baruch forsake us. Is that they
Chazavos ran out.
Yeah, they ran out.
No, it only can run out. It can only run out if you disassociate with it. As long as you're willing to take it further, it keeps going.
Oh, so I gotta help my
That's a
parents.
long.
But you were in touch
I'm
with
sure I've heard it.
Yes, of course I was.
That's the wrong way to run it.
I think so. I think it's Canadian term.
Yeah, I
Bris
was
oil.
not gonna call you, I was gonna call
Oil.
you.
Because I didn't forget. You see, I mean, I thought you were there as husband.
Bris always is a bris
For
oil.
reminding me that you know.
Once you say it's not eternal, then it's a serious
No,
choice.
no, sometimes you do something for somebody because of the source of their father.
The Savior.
I mean,
But in the case of
that's why
Avraham,
you're
Yitzchak,
doing
and
it.
Yaakov, it goes forever.
That's what you're saying, Bris Olam is.
Bris Olam is Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov. Maybe our own personal Chazavos is my grandfather, maybe that doesn't go along. It probably does, as long as you don't disassociate yourself. But I don't know if that's Bris Olam. Bris Olam is talking about Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov. That's Bris Olam. Okay, Avraham, okay, Yitzchak, Yaakov, we're going to say that forever.
So Thomas Chazal
There was a whole, this is David HaMelech accused the Rishoyim around him of saying that Kadosh Baruch was no longer involved in this world. We can do whatever we want. So they were orthodox, like that. Oh, you got to tell the Orthodox Jews. But they claimed that Kadosh Baruch Hu, the Hester Panim, that's what we learned last night. The Hester Panim pushed Hashem away.
Where's the fruits here?
Okay. Thank you for listening.
An hour. Do you want to do